You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of February 20th, 2026. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where story beats charts every time. It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Today we're going to talk about how to win, how to lose, and how to tell the difference.
Sometimes it's hard.
It's kind of hard sometimes. And to start us out, we pulled a pertinent quote from a Fortune magazine article published November 7th, 2016.
Yikes.
That's the before time because it's one day before the 2016 election. And you don't talk about those days, but we are. The title of the article is How Donald Trump Took Advantage of a Broken Media Landscape.
Ooh.
And it lays out the flaws and failures of the media of 2016, which have widened into chasms and catastrophes over the past decades. The bottom line driven obsession with ratings and revenue. But there's something in there about the empty Trump lectern also. Mm-hmm. The willingness to publish facts and bullshit side by side, to treat them both with equal seriousness in the name of fairness. Also, if Republicans go too far, they say that that's controversial.
That's right. It's very controversial.
The reality that all the media's craven motives, blind spots, and groupthink biases were there long before Trump ever showed up. He just exploited the hell out of them.
Yes, he did. And the quote we pulled is from a tweet by Clay Shirky. It's from July 22nd, 2016. Quote, seeing my timeline during the convention last night, that's taking me back, made me despair. We've brought fact checkers to a culture war. Time to get serious, unquote. 10 years later, it's tragically obvious that in the fight between fact checkers and Republican lies, the fact checkers have been decimated. And it's equally obvious why the fact checkers lost. You start off with the Republican base who've been trained for decades to be credulous idiots who will believe any nonsense Fox News shits into their heads.
Add in a Republican leadership that has seen how effective bald-faced lying can be and has given up entirely on reality. They now just blast the system with lies day and night.
Yeah, and add in a legacy media that has become such a ridiculous parody of itself, and who really pays attention to it anymore?
Add in so-called moderates, centrists, and, say it with me now, independents.
Independents.
Who, no matter how many facts you pile up in front of them, I'm sorry, I just have this picture of Joe Rogan in my head right now. It makes no sense, man. It's just, I don't know.
Yeah.
You know, they just can never seem to decide between a slice of pizza and a bowl of broken glass.
Yeah, I don't know.
Who can tell? I don't know. This is crazy.
I don't know. You know, if I had a third choice, maybe I don't know. Fuck those guys. Yeah, so you add all those together and you have a nation that will always be on the brink of collapse into a fascist banana republic. That's what the voting public confirmed for all of us back in 2024. One stiff breeze, one economic glitch, one complex foreign policy problem, a few scary ads about trans people. And that's all it took. And it didn't matter objectively, according to fact checkers, that the U.S. economy under Biden was recovering faster and better than any nation on earth. It didn't matter however harshly you may have judged the Biden-Harris foreign policy that Trump promised to be 1,000 times worse. It didn't matter that trans people are a tiny minority and they're no threat to anyone. It didn't matter that the 2020 election was not stolen. It didn't matter that under Trump's direction, a mob of Republican goons tried to violently overthrow the U.S. government of the United States on camera. All that mattered was that enough fence-straddling idiots were willing to jump back into bed with a regime that had published their fascist intentions before the goddamn election to put our 238-year-old experiment in self-government into the intensive care unit.
Now, in this culture war, fact checkers are as useless as horse-mounted cavalry against state-of-the-art tanks because Republicans figured out that facts don't matter. So if you're waiting for the great bulk of the American public to wake up and start caring about facts, well, to quote Captain Malcolm in Firefly, that's a long wait for a train don't come. And in the culture war, only the stories they tell matter. And while their stories are 100% bullshit, they're lurid, fantastical bullshit, and always always with the same villains, repeated over and over again, thousands of times.
Yeah.
And in this culture war, the only thing that's going to beat stupid, ugly stories they tell over and over again are better stories, our stories.
So let's talk about that. And we're going to talk about that by way of a New York Times guest article by Will McGrath, who is an essayist writing from Minneapolis. The essay is entitled, "In the Resistance, We Drive Minivans." And it really is a minor masterpiece of political storytelling. It's a long essay, and there's no way to excerpt it or summarize it that would do it justice. But I would give up beefing about former Republicans, who, let's remember, still despise us liberals, colonizing the legacy media and laying claim to being the leaders of the resistance and the successors of the American spirit. I would give all that up for Lent if the Bulwark and the crooked media lads and MS Now would hire famous voice actor Keith David to read it on every available platform. You can definitely tell that Mr. McGrath is a very effective essayist by the way he builds his thesis. For those of you who are fans of vintage liberal porn and still watch The West Wing, you will remember in season 2, Toby Ziegler talks about speech writing to a security guard who's been assigned to watch over him during a WTO protest. Oh, those were the days. And it all sounds so old-timey now, so quaint, but the point of the show writers made about how to build a speech or an essay is valid, even though Toby is citing something called the science of listener attention, which does not exist. Toby shows the security guard what he's talking about by giving an impromptu speech and then drawing the guard's attention and our attention to exactly how he is doing it. He calls two of the techniques repetition and floating opposites. And if you've ever taken a speech or rhetoric class, your professor probably called them anaphora and chiasmus. Anaphora, or repetition, sets the context and grabs the reader's or listener's attention. Chiasmus, or pairing opposites, is memorable. For example, John F. Kennedy's saying, "Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country."
Now, the first repetition in Mr. McGrath's essay is the phrase, "In the resistance, we, ... He explains how simple everyday activities you probably do every day can be a vital part of the resistance. He's lowering the barrier of entry to this important cause, to the average person out there.
Mm-hmm.
Quote, "In the resistance, we drive minivans." And this, "In the resistance, we play idols loud. We prefer British punk. Turn the volume up. Danny Nedelko, excuse me. I think it's Nedelko. This is showing off my generation gap here. Please and thank you." Then he tells his readers that this is not just about driving kids to school. It's something important, something sacred. Quote, "In the resistance, we drive the high school carpool, that holy responsibility, the ferrying of innocence among the wolves," unquote.
And then, being very clever, he gently subverts his own theme. Quote, "Okay, fine. I don't even drive a minivan, if you're going to be pedantic. It's a dark Chevy Traverse that looks exactly like an ice truck," unquote.
But we're just 4 paragraphs in, and because of the repetition and the very specific details he loads into each paragraph, we already know exactly where we are. Quote, "Our trunks stuffed with hockey skates and scuffed Frisbees and cardboard Costco flats. We drive Odysseys and Siennas. We drive Voyagers and Pacificas. We like it when the back end goes ka-thunk over speed bumps, shaking loose the goldfish dust." Great writing.
Absolutely. And boy, have we been those people.
We are
in that van.
We have been that house. Yes, absolutely. And that car.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to insert one thing right now. I remember having like 6 little girls in the back seat of the van.
Oh, yeah.
And we kept the van sliding door closed until Driftglass came outside to open it. And all 6 little girls, and I'm telling you, there was a girl with bright red hair, and there was youngest child, and there was an African-American girl, and there was a Hispanic girl, and there was a girl who had a disability.
Yeah.
And you slid open the door, and everyone yelled out, "Hi, stepdad!" And you said, "This car looks like America." And it did.
It did. And it was, I have driven many, many carloads of giggly girls.
Yes.
And so this put me right in this scene. I know exactly what this van smells like.
And,
it looks like.
And you connect to it. You connect it in a very personal way, which is what good writing does. Yeah. All right. And then we get a little bit serious. And it was hard for me when Driftglass showed me this piece and we were reading it out loud together. It was hard for me to read it without crying. So I'm going to try not to cry this time because I have read it out loud already. But just so you know.
But man, it got us.
Have Kleenex nearby.
It got us both.
It gets you. So this is the next part. After the goldfish dust, we cast that song like a protective spell across our minivans. Let us be bulletproof. Let us be invisible. And then there's this. Most mornings we're in our pajamas, a staling donut grabbed with yesterday's cold coffee, teeth unbrushed, and okay, fine, that might just be me. You wouldn't be the first to cock an eyebrow at my personal hygiene, unquote.
And then he gets to the core of the essay, the thesis statement, the reason they are doing that. Quote, "We've been doing this since December, 8 weeks going on 9, going on who knows. Kids stopped going to school when thousands of ICE officers arrived in Minnesota. They didn't want to take the buses anymore. Their parents too nervous to release their children onto the block lest they get swept up by masked agents in flak jackets. This was just before the 5-year-old in the blue bunny hat got taken, before a 4th grader in Columbia Heights disappeared, before my child's middle school went into lockdown because ICE trucks were prowling outside her algebra classroom. A network of neighborhood moms and dads bloomed organically, divvying rides, vetting newcomers. There were no open calls, just friends talking to other friends, seeing who might want help," unquote. Now, you'll notice there are no charts being cited here. There are no statistics. There's no polling numbers. There's no economic indicators. There are no lies being rebutted by fact checkers. It's just a story being told by a gifted essayist acting as kind of a Minneapolis resistance griot. And if you don't know that word, it's a traditional West African storyteller and historian, someone who preserves a community's history, genealogy, and cultural values through the spoken word and music. Think of Homer reciting the Odyssey, that sort of thing. Someone who passes this down generation by generation. They pass down stories, lessons, and family lineage from one generation to the next.
Then on to the second set of anaphora that will carry the weight of this thesis statement. Today, I'm driving. Quote, "Today, I'm driving a boy with big bright eyes and floppy hair and golden retriever vibes. Today, I'm driving a girl with red lipstick and a gentle, cautious smile. Today, I'm driving those sweet, shy sisters who politely take donuts from my proffered box, even though they never eat them in the car. Today, I'm driving the dignified and serious girl who told me English is her favorite class," unquote. Once again, each repetition is followed by very specific telling details about each individual child. And if you read it, and we definitely recommend you do, the link is in the show notes, you will also notice how all of the driving is described in the present tense. That's telling your brain, this is happening right now, this minute. While the details let you see these children in your mind's eye, you can imagine them in your rearview mirror. And that serious girl who loves English, quote, "Today she's going downtown to the protest, going because her parents can't leave the house. Her father came out to shake my hand the first day I picked her up. Most mornings her mother waves from behind a cracked door. They postponed her quinceanera for now. Mom says it's going to be a sweet 16 next year.
And
Unquote.
then comes this, quote, "Today I'm driving a boy with braces and unstylish glasses, a dazed and daffy air," unquote. And that's when Mr. McGrath puts this into third gear. He opens the essay up wide to talk about the resistance, but in ways you wouldn't necessarily expect. Ways that sound welcoming and joyful, not scary. Toby Ziegler would be very proud. Quote, "What they don't often tell you is how beautiful the resistance can be. In the evening, on the day that Alex Preddy, an ICU nurse, was shot to death by federal agents in front of Glam Doll Donuts, my wife and I drove through Minneapolis. There were candlelight vigils on nearly every corner we passed, some corners with 4 or 5 people cupping tiny flames, some corners with 50 neighbors milling about, communing, singing, stoking a fire pit hauled to the sidewalk, lighting up the little Weber grill just hanging out in the frozen dark. What they don't often tell you is how fun the resistance. Everyone is doing his part here, each to his ability. This is easier to accomplish, it seems, when joy and love are the engines," unquote.
Mr. McGrath warns his readers not to expect miracles. He's very blunt about this. No one who has been killed will get their lives back. Thousands have been traumatized permanently. There will be little or no justice for the victims, and villains will not be punished. So if that's what you're waiting for, you're going to be sorely disappointed. But then he does something that will sound very familiar if you know the Christian idea that the kingdom of heaven is already here on earth, and that it falls to us to bring it into being. Quote, "But you also need to understand, and this is equally important, that we've already won. The reward is right now, this minute, this moment. The reward is watching your city, whether it's Chicago or Los Angeles or Charlotte or the cities still to come, organized in hyper-local networks of compassion," unquote.
And then he brings his readers along with him to a very emotional and very well-earned climax, which begins, quote, "Today I'm driving a girl who never speaks other than to say thank you," unquote, which we will not spoil for you by repeating it here. Suffice it to say it's very powerful, and you should read it. And then, like any good storyteller, Mr. McGrath brings the denouement, which begins like this. Quote, "This afternoon I'm driving a brother and sister. We've been listening to the radio, which reports that almost all of the 3,000 ICE agents involved in the surge are leaving our state. No one believes it, not really. This declaration from the agency that has asked us again and again to disbelieve our eyes, to accept that nurses were domestic terrorists, that children were violent criminals," unquote.
Republicans have been telling the same stories over and over again for decades. Stories drawn in bright, stark color with a rotating cast of familiar cartoon villains like the welfare queen, the feminazi, the lazy, job-stealing immigrant, the union thug, George Soros, and the America-hating, baby-killing, dirty commie libtard. These stories have built the bubble in which the Republican base lives, which is why they need to be constantly repeated and reinforced. Because if their bullshit igloo ever starts to thaw and collapse, well, that's how the George W. Bush administration collapsed. The pressure from external realities became too much for the bullshit igloo to bear. And don't forget, it's 38% that live in that bullshit igloo.
And are going to be buried there.
Yeah.
They're never coming out. It doesn't matter what. But we tell stories too, don't we? We tell stories like in the resistance, we drive minivans, which don't melt under the heat of reality, do they? Instead, the sunlight makes them grow stronger. Our stories are not about the boogeymen who live under MAGA's beds or the ghosts and goblins dreamed up by Fox News to keep them scared and rage drunk. Our stories are about the lives of real people out here in the real world, dealing with the real consequences of a political party that is hell-bent on incinerating the Constitution, stripping the country for parts, and terrorizing anyone who gets in their way. Our problem isn't that we lack important stories or powerful storytellers. Our problem is that we have no megaphone big enough and loud enough to drown out the fascists and their collaborators.
But However unbalanced the playing field is, sooner or later reality will have its day, which is why every Republican elected clown and every conservative media goof has been pressed into service, keeping the Trump bullshit igloo intact. It's why Donald Trump went to Iowa in the past month. It's why their efforts at keeping Trump's sagging, melting cathedral of lives has become so shrieking and hysterical, because they know what waits for them if the roof ever caves in.
Mm-hmm. And while we're on the subject of collapsing dream palaces, Blue Gal, may we introduce to you those darn centrists who are having a hell of a time keeping their own bullshit igloo intact. Because unlike Republicans, to keep their brand solvent, centrists feel obliged to keep at least 1 foot out here in the real world. And their problem is that their glacially slow realization that the Republican Party has gone full fascist is running headlong smack into their own well-documented history of mocking and dismissing anyone who was saying exactly this prior to now, because their brand is being the wisest and savviest analysts in all the land. Their special gift, for which they can charge premium prices, is supposed to be a superhuman ability to peer into the misty depths of the nation's soul and discern important truths before anyone else. And the fact that a bunch of dirty hippies got there more than a decade ahead of them is, to put it mildly, very inconvenient.
So they deal with the dissonance by using the pundits' two mightiest weapons, baffle-gab and pedantry. For more on this story, we turn to selected excerpts from the New Republic article titled, "What's Behind the Centrist Resistance to the Resistance Liberals?" They're acknowledging now that the people who called Trump a fascist were right, but somehow we're still not to be trusted. This is from February 17th, 2026, last Tuesday. Quote, "For over a decade, many centrist pundits have reflexively dismissed resistance liberals. We were considered, if we were considered at all, through ugly, dismissive stereotypes. Talked to, when talked to at all, with self-satisfied condescension. It was core to the centrist identity that they were the smart, sophisticated, savvy ones. And we're a bunch of pussy hat-wearing ninnies."
Alarmist crackpots, if you will.
Alarmist crackpots.
Yeah.
However, following a steady drumbeat of events, most recently the federal occupation of Minneapolis, it's becoming undeniable that America's dear leader is indeed a threat to liberal democracy. And for that matter, that fascist is a reasonable term for him, and many in the MAGA movement.
Mm-hmm. And continuing from the same article, the columnists have slowly updated their language, but in doing so they have, as a Marxist would say, become involved in a contradiction. What they were saying for a decade was wrong, yet they cannot be wrong. Liberals are right, yet we cannot be right. Jonathan Rauch, in a recent Atlantic article, and where else, conceded that Trump was a fascist. He nonetheless started with a swipe at the people who he was admitting had been correct about this. They had overused the term to the point of meaninglessness, he insisted. Especially guilty were the left-leaning types who call you a fascist if you oppose abortion or affirmative action. I know. I'm having a very hard time not laughing my ass off.
I'm laughing because, it's, yes, they were right, but we can't trust them.
No, you used the wrong inflection.
They said it too loud. They said it too often while we were trying to block their message.
Right.
Why didn't they just let us block their message so we could be right first?
This is like high-level tone policing.
Yeah, it is.
Well, yes, technically you were right, but you said it in the wrong tone of voice, and therefore we're the ones who were right.
Also, you're not me.
Yeah, right.
I am allowed to be right first. Yes.
Well, yeah, that's their whole brand. Only I am allowed to be right. See also Tom Nichols every time he opens his fucking mouth. Oh my God.
Tom Nichols and his Harvard mug.
Yeah, yes, grumpy asshole who just has to be the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah,
and if you were right a decade or two before him, he'll sit back and go, "Oh, what about Abby Hoffman, huh? What about Abby Hoffman? Tell me about Abby Hoffman." Well, fuck you. Let's talk about the Republican Party as it existed during your entire adult life. And that's when he blocks you. So it's important for them to be, because if they're not the smartest humans on earth and the best analysts, they don't have a job.
Right.
Atlantic won't hire them. They will not get put into op-ed columns in the New York Times. They will not be interviewed on cable TV. Then where will they be? Anyway, none of that was in the article. That was just a little sidebar. I'm going back to the article now. The whole argument was strange. Trump has revealed himself, Rausch concluded, implying that the information had only just come to light. Yet the evidence he drew on spanned an era, much of it dating back to 2015 or 2016. Were those who used the same evidence to draw the same conclusion a decade earlier wrong to do so? Rausch doesn't say, but he sure seems to think so. For others, it's simply axiomatic. Economics blogger Noah Smith noted that recounting the horrific actions of ICE sounds like, quote, the kind of crazy thing resistance libs would rant about on Blue Sky. Yeah, those crazy resistance libs and their crazy notions.
Yes. Yes.
Back to the article. Anti-Trump liberals are, it seems, just crazy. Even being utterly and obviously right doesn't change that.
Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance for the next paragraph from this article.
Well, I just want to underscore, when we cover the media and when we cover MAGA, we need to remind ourselves over and over again, there's actually two different cults at work here. The MAGA cult is obvious and out and proud and wears red hats and is never going to go away and is 38%. But the cult of the smarmy, savvy centrist who cannot be budged away from their belief that they were right all along, they were right first, and liberals are just alarmists. That is a total cult. It has all the characteristics of a cult. It all has all of the self-reinforcing lies of a cult. It has all the closed loop of a cult.
They all have the cleanest, smartest belly button in the whole wide world.
They do. They do. All right,
Continuing
so proceed.
The article, Nate Silver.
Oh, we had to get around to him eventually, didn't we?
Speaking of clean, smart belly buttons,
yeah.
Nate Silver, in a long conversation with Matt Iglesias.
Don't do it. Don't do it, Blue Gal. Don't read it. It's cursed language. Don't do it. Anyway, go ahead.
Talked around the claim that resist libs were right. The whole thing just seemed to annoy Nate Silver. He ultimately bypassed the question altogether. It was difficult for him to even understand us as he was taking a more detached and analytical method, whereas the liberal approach might feel more emotionally right. That didn't make it correct.
Yeah.
Get yourself some spectrum therapy, buddy. Okay. And there it is. Female-coded resistance liberalism is too emotional. Nate is riffing off a tweet calling us hysterical pussy hats. Men like him and Matt are rational.
By the way, I have the pussy hat my wife knit for me within about 6 inches of where I'm sitting right now. Yeah. And I wear it proudly. And
I made one in trans colors, the colors of the trans flag. I made one with a blue wave on it. I really played with that whole motif in my knitting of making pussy hats that would have different kind of themes to them.
So I'd be delighted to put my pussy hat on, wear one of our Both Sides Don't t-shirts, and meet Nate Silver anywhere he'd like to meet to have this out once and for all like men.
Maybe in a detached and analytical method.
Sure, let's do that. That might work.
So what's an example of our hysterical irrationality, Driftglass? Well, the resistance libs are sometimes spectacularly unfocused, and there's often a mismatch between what stories are objectively most important and those we pay attention to. Nate's first and only example of this is Jeffrey Epstein, apparently caring that the president was implicated in an international pedophile ring is emotional and unfocused.
I'm also going to read from the same article, which we're just reading from because it's awesome. And please take that for what it's worth. Quote, I'm increasingly noticing how little that is written about resistant liberals cites one of us directly. Yeah.
You mean they didn't quote Driftglass in their discussions?
There are dozens of us. There are dozens and dozens of us. And they never quote us. They never ask our opinion. They never cite us. There's just this abstract liberal monster over there that everyone has. You know, the dirty
unfocused and over-emotional and not analytical enough. Yes, you're right.
Back to the article. The Libs Were Right piece by Anna Lutz Fernandez is infinitely better than anything thus far surveyed because it was written by a liberal who has held these views all along. It discusses the gendered aspect of how fears were dismissed and links to this to the logic of abuse and the fact that this is an administration staffed by abusers.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yep. You ring a bell? With some honorable exceptions like Jamil Bowie, such voices are absent from the most significant national publications. Perhaps those publications should be more interested in them, unquote. Yeah. Again, speaking of a long wait for a train never come. Yeah,
right.
Won't come.
To longtime listeners of this podcast or readers of Driftglass, this all might sound extremely familiar because we have been deconstructing the Never Trump movement since the days when it was just a 2016 Twitter hashtag, and people like Bill Kristol and Rick Wilson started showing up as regulars on MSNBC. You will remember that they all sounded suspiciously like liberal bloggers from 2006, all using vocabularies and cadences to describe the political party for which they had labored their entire adult lives until 5 minutes ago. Using vocabulary a decade prior you'd have found only among the pariah bloggers and talkers of the left. Digby's Hullabaloo, Steve Gilliard's news blog, Eshkaton, my own blog, Vagabond Scholar, Faf blog. I miss Faf blog.
I miss Faf blog. Yeah.
Faf blog was the best blog. You know that. Down with Tyranny, First Draft, No More Mr. Nice blog. Another one I missed, Dr. Zayas.
Well, he has no time for blogging.
No time for blogging today was how he always opened every post. Dr. Zayas, dear Dr. Zayas, Crooks and Liars, Mock Paper Scissors and 10 Grain at Mock Paper Scissors, fantastic. The Rectification of Names, The Rude Pundit, The Smirking Chimp, Wonkette, The Stephanie Miller Show, The Bradcast, Tom Hartman, The Nicole Sandler Show, Bob Seska, The Randy Rhoads Show, The Majority Report. And there are just so many more. We know we've left some out. We know we've left you guys out. We're sorry. And, you know another dozen. You can name them.
Yep.
Shout them out while you're listening to this podcast because we know we forgot some.
Yeah. And it's not as an insult.
No.
Today on the Blue Sky, I said, if you are in possession of working blueprint for a time machine, or if you have the secret of eternal life and you want to make sure nobody ever finds it, post it on a liberal blog.
2005-6, right?
Yeah. Or now. No one will pay any attention to it. You will not be. No. And it's absolutely true. This is part of the kind of pleasure of being who we are, is that we really do have these really long, extensive archives. And I don't mean just you and me. I mean together, all of those bloggers, all those podcasters, all those radio people together, along with dozens and dozens of others, we constitute a very rich text together. Together, we are a deep and thoughtful study of the trajectory of American politics and American media for the last 40 or 50 years. Together, we are the liberal media, if you don't mind me coining a phrase. And after the rise of...
Every once in a while, though, I notice someone in mainstream media, particularly, I mean, we don't watch MS Now anymore, but every once in a while on Blue Sky, I will see a clip from MSNBC, and I'll go, oh shit, they read Driftglass.
Yeah. Oh, I know they do. I know they do.
You know they do, because there's a word that you've repeated in yesterday's post that they say.
Yeah. No, I'm slowly incepting them, Blue Gal.
Yes, right.
And it's only going to take another 30 or 40 years, but I'll get
50,
there.
60 years, another lifetime.
But after the rise of Trump, all of those blogs we named, all of it was elbowed aside to make room at the media's adult table for people like Michael Steele and Matthew Dowd and Rick Wilson and Charlie Sykes and Steve Schmidt, so they could control the narrative and tell the fairy tale they wanted told instead of the very long and very ugly history of the Republican Party and the conservative media that made a monster like Trump not only possible, but probably inevitable.
Yeah.
So, okay, fine. But what about the tolerant left, Blue Gal, huh? What about the tolerant left? Huh? Aren't we supposed to be tolerant and good-hearted and open-hearted and forgiving, eternally forgiving? What about all that good stuff about the enemy of my enemy and so on? That's been the subject of many, many long, tedious scoldings from our allies. It's funny you should ask about that.
Yeah, it is.
Mm-hmm.
For more on that, let's go back to the New Republic article. And yes, we know we are shamelessly stealing from this New Republic article, just like we stole from that New York Times essay, because we are aware of all internet traditions.
We are.
Quote, am I perhaps being too harsh? I am, after all, talking about people who are coming around to my view somewhat. Should I not welcome them into the movement? I think this sort of argument can conflate two things, welcoming their support and welcoming their leadership. Again, this is someone who's read Driftglass and also Charlie Pierce.
Yeah.
I think we should welcome anyone's support. I'd never throw a vote back. The question I'm asking is, are these people best placed to lead, to be the most significant voices and define the strategy for the anti-Trump coalition? Oh boy, that's just swinging right at the bulwark, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Centrist columnists want the power of leading the coalition without any responsibility. They assign to liberals and the left responsibility without power. We are blamed for election losses, but we may not set election strategy. We are responsible for liberalism's image, but we are not given its loudest megaphones. And now even talking about us seems to send them spiraling into unprocessed feelings of masculine inadequacy. And that doesn't explain Sarah Longwell.
No. But I got to say, that's a very nice way of putting it, sir. A very nice way of putting it.
Yes, right.
I would put it a little differently. Okay, we're going to wrap the recitation of this wonderful article with the following. Quote, resistance liberals have stopped accepting this. Our numbers have grown. We are now the majority of votes on our side. And I suspect the majority of those protesting in No Kings or heroically resisting ICE. Contrary to stereotypes, we are a cross-class coalition from every corner of America, representing tens of millions of people. This is what we mean when we say we got it right. It's not patting ourselves on the back. Lord knows, Blue Gal, I would give anything not to have been right about the last 20 years.
Absolutely. To be the only one talking, to be the only group of people talking about it.
No, I'd give anything if I were wrong about all this shit.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would love for this country to be an entirely different country where I was completely dead wrong about Bush administration.
Too, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And the Tea Party didn't exist and MAGA didn't exist. And I was just shouting nonsense.
Yep.
But it's maddening to know that we were, in fact, right. And we're not patting ourselves on the back to the article, or being mean for the sake of it. Resistance liberalism is asserting that it should be listened to, that our strategy is the correct one, and that we are ready to lead the anti-fascist coalition, unquote. And just for fun, this was friend of the pod and sometimes guest of this podcast, Charlie Pierce, back on October 13th, 2024 on the Twitter. Quote, why is the vice president bragging on her endorsement from Alberto freaking Gonzalez? C plus Augustus's Bobo AG. The guy resigned in disgrace. Enough already with the look at all the Republicans who like me tour of the Americas. All hands on deck, but not all hands on the bridge.
Right.
Unquote.
Right.
Yep.
And it just goes to show you, I think, that it's not Republican commentators, independent commentators, and the resistance left. It's insiders at that insider cocktail party, at Politicon, who all already have the media spotlight and are not willing to give it up, regardless of how they present themselves. And the rest of us.
Yeah. And there's a lot of the rest of us.
And we're not banging on the door to get into Politicon and have a spotlight there.
Absolutely not.
We just want it to be acknowledged what we say.
Right. Because
we've said it publicly, and we've said it on the internet as publicly as anyone else writing on the internet.
Well, if never Trumpers, if Jonathan Rauch and all the rest of them, Timmy Miller, are going to wave the flag and jump up and down and say, look at me, I got it right, I was right. That's why you should listen to me. If that's a virtue, if that is something that is worth a spotlight, then how is it you're so angry at people who were right long before you were? Aren't they more virtuous than you? Don't they have better, by definition, by your own fucking definition, don't they have better insight into politics than you do? Right. Aren't they more articulate about what's wrong?
And more qualified to sit in your seat than you are.
And that's what scares the shit out of them, because the answer to all those things is yes. The people who got it right early, really early, are the ones who should be running a joint like the Bulwark, who should be raking in millions of dollars a year, raising tens of millions of dollars for political campaigns and setting the agenda. But that voice is not something that the legacy media wants to hear, because that means they got it wrong too.
Yeah.
They not just got it wrong, they were complicit in what went wrong.
Absolutely. They were complicit. That's the thing.
And they cannot bear the thought of someone taking a good hard look at what the New York Times did to this country, or the Washington Post did to this country, or Meet the Press did to this country.
Peter Baker did to this country.
No, they're not going to sit still for that. So the bulwark universe is the compromise. We'll acknowledge that the shit all went bad in 2016.
Yeah.
Before that is completely off limits, and anyone who was talking during that period is persona non grata at the adults' table.
Yep. And it's on this point that both the legacy media and our centrist and never Trump quote unquote allies are all in agreement. Each group has their own reasons involving ratings, money, legitimacy, and or ideology, but it all comes down to the same thing. They cannot allow the left to have been right about the right all along. They cannot. It would ruin everything. It would bring their dream palaces tumbling down.
And so the left's actual record, our actual record, which is still out there in our archives, available to anyone who wants to read it, all of that is simply erased. It's erased and replaced with the same old, tired, fucking straw man they've been beating on since Nixon. On that note,
I showed you a 20-second video of me last night that was like 18 years old, Driftglass.
It was so hot. It was so hot.
I was so young, and I was wearing a Darfur t-shirt.
Yes, you were.
And I submitted a question to the Democratic debate, which was something that everyone was invited to do.
Yeah.
You know, submit a 20-second YouTube of you asking a question, and we might use it at the debate. This was to democratize the debate process and have questions from the public from all over the country. Mine didn't get used, but mine was about, it was 2008 election. I was asking Democratic candidates how they would dismantle imperial presidential power that had been exemplified by the Bush administration.
Don't worry, baby. It's all been taken care of.
How quaint.
Yeah. Isn't that adorable? Again, like Toby Ziegler at the WTO protest.
Oh, great. You're going to compare me to fucking West Wing.
No.
Fuck West Wing.
I'm gonna mention that it was a different age, Blue Gal. It was a different time.
That's Trump's excuse for sticking his finger in little girls, you know.
I know.
It's a different time. 90s, you know, Miami Beach in the 1990s was a different time.
Yeah.
No, you're a child rapist.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now I'm in a bad mood, Driftglass.
Well, you know, it'll cheer you up, Blue Gal. A news
it'll
roundup.
cheer me up to do a news roundup. Absolutely.
Yeah, it always makes you smile.
We love you guys, by the way, out there listening in podcast land. Thank you for doing that for us. Let's do a news roundup from the New York fucking Times. Quote, Congressional Democrats sent the White House a new counterproposal to reopen the Department of Homeland Security after the agency's funding lapsed Saturday. Democrats have demanded new limits on ICE and Customs and Border Protection, including a ban on agents wearing masks, mandatory body cameras, and stricter judicial warrant requirements. This is Merck's Law, Driftglass. It really is. Like the responsible party coming up with a proposal.
That's responsible. That's minimal. This is the minimum.
This is the minimum in writing. Steps to take. Concrete steps to take to make it better. The White House, however, said the sides remain pretty far apart because the president is asleep.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah, and Stephen Miller's running the show.
Stephen Miller is masturbating to brown people being thrown into trucks.
Oh, yeah. Yes. Stephen Miller is a monster.
Yeah.
And 77 million people voted
for him
back in power.
To run this. Yeah.
This is from Reuters. Quote, federal judges have ruled at least 4,421 times since October that ICE detained immigrants unlawfully, yet the Trump administration kept many locked up anyway. Detainees have filed more than 20,200 habeas corpus lawsuits since Trump took office, flooding courts and forcing the Justice Department to deploy more than 700 lawyers, with some judges saying release orders were ignored, unquote.
The next president's going to have no choice but to ask the Congress and the Justice Department to seize Trump's property that he obtained through foreign governments as illegal, you know, as against the Constitution and against all of that. They're going to have to seize that property to pay back the people who were illegally detained.
But he gets to keep the plane, right?
Nope. Nope, we're going to break it down and sell little pieces of it on eBay. Auction it off. This is from CNN. Quote, a federal judge barred ICE from redetaining Kilmar Abrego Garcia, saying the government had no lawful basis to hold him while it keeps shopping for a deportation destination. I just
can't. They can't admit they're wrong. They cannot, because it all unravels if they ever say we did something wrong.
U.S. District Judge Paula Zinnes said the 90-day detention window had expired and the government had shown no good reason to believe removal was likely in the reasonably foreseeable future. Unquote. Duh.
From NBC, quote, Senate Republicans have lined up at least 50 votes for the Trump-backed Save America Act, which would require proof of U.S. citizenship to register to vote and mandate photo IDs nationwide. The measure passed the House last week, but still needs 60 votes in the Senate to clear a filibuster. Democrats have vowed to block it, and Republican leaders have said they don't have the votes to eliminate the filibuster, unquote.
Also, do we have this in here that Republicans are begging the president not to do this?
Oh, I believe we mentioned that on Tuesday.
On Tuesday.
Yes.
Republicans are begging the White House to back down on this.
Please don't do this. Because
married women in red states changed their names more than married women in blue states.
And the other reason? Because Republicans would like their constituents to take advantage of mail-in ballots.
Mail-in ballots, especially the senior citizens.
And every time Trump repeats that no other country in the world does this, it's utterly corrupt and it never works.
We did that part.
We won't do that then.
Yeah, right. From the Philadelphia Inquirer, a federal judge ordered the Trump administration to restore slavery-related exhibits that the National Park Service removed from the site in Philadelphia, where George Washington lived as president. U.S. District Judge Cynthia Roof issued a preliminary injunction requiring the president's house be returned to its physical status as of January 21st. Rejecting the government's claim that it could unilaterally alter the displays under Trump's executive order, restoring truth and sanity to American history, meaning whitewash American history.
Yeah.
Roof said the removals likely violated federal law and cooperative agreements requiring consultation with the city, comparing the administration's position to Orwell's 1984. And writing that the government couldn't disassemble and disassemble historical truths simply because it has power. The ruling keeps the panels in place while litigation brought by Philadelphia proceeds. That's a city of brotherly love, Driftglass.
It is. This is from Reuters. Speaking of brotherly love, quote, 38% of Americans. How many Americans?
What?
How many Americans?
Bing! I heard that number again.
38% of Americans approve of Trump's immigration policies, the lowest level since his return to the White House and down from 50% a year ago, unquote.
Yeah. It can't go lower than that, though. No. And everybody knows it. Yes. That's the Sarah Palin floor. And we're going to keep saying that. You're going to hear a lot of that this year. The people who think Sarah Palin would make a good president. 38%. It's tragic that it's that high.
That's the base of the Republican Party.
That is the base of the Republican Party, who open up their skull every night and let the Fox News host shit in it. And then they think that's political.
Yep.
Yeah. Or if Fox News makes them mad, then they turn to Newsmax.
Right. I don't like what they're saying about Megyn Kelly. I'm going to Newsmax.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. And in local news from WCM Woodward Community News, and I actually got an email about this from Nextdoor.
Yeah.
Which is at least around here. You can let us know if Nextdoor in your community is like this. Nextdoor is for little old ladies locked in their houses, looking out their back window to see if a black person is walking down the alley. Yeah. That's what Nextdoor is.
Oh, and reporting on it.
I don't want to say, and reporting it to Nextdoor.
Yeah. Oh, it's
scary.
Black
person walked down my alley today.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, he was the garbage man collecting the trash.
Oh, I don't know. He looks scary.
I don't know. Yes.
Maybe he was one of the good ones, Blue Gal. Yeah.
It's that racist.
Yeah.
It is racist white ladies. That's what it has. That's the reputation they have. But I did get an email from Nextdoor about this story, and I immediately sent it to Driftglass and said, this is podcastable.
Yes.
Quote, a Republican lawmaker who introduced a bill to outlaw abortion in Illinois, has resigned his GOP leadership position in the Illinois Senate after conversations with top Republicans. You know what those conversations were like, Driftglass?
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
You got to go.
You gotta go.
You got to go. Yeah, you're making us look bad, man. You know this is an election year, right? You're aware that we're up for... Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Senator Neil Anderson, Republican of Andalusia, which is a real... on February 5th, introduced a fetal personhood bill that would define a fertilized human egg as a legal person and grant it constitutional protections. It would also open the door to first-degree murder charges for abortion. The only exceptions are for accidental deaths that happen because of life-saving procedures on a pregnant woman and miscarriage. Rape, incest, and in vitro fertilization, a process in which fertilized eggs are frozen and sometimes discarded, are not exempt. The important part of this bill is deterrence, Anderson said at a Tuesday news conference. We are outlawing abortion. There's nobody up here that wants to put women in jail. But that's what you're going to do with this law, you dumbass. Anyway, Anderson also refiled a bill to reinstate the death penalty for first-degree murder and other crimes. He said he's introduced it several times over the years. Neither bill, this is the critical part, neither bill has Republican co-sponsors. But Anderson said he's had constant prayer with colleagues and he hopes to add co-sponsors.
Do you know what those prayers sounded like, Blue Gal?
Yeah, hope this guy goes away.
Oh, my God, here he comes. Oh, my God.
Oh, my God, here he comes. Maybe he could become a pastor somewhere and not be in the House anymore.
Hey, Neil, how you doing?
Senate Republican leader John Curran, who has to speak publicly on these things, I will add, said the bill is a no for the Republican caucus.
No.
I don't support his proposal. No other Republican legislator supports his proposal, House or Senate, he said. It's an extreme proposal. I do not view it as a pro-life proposal. I view it as an anti-woman proposal about punishment. He sounds like a conservative Democrat, doesn't he?
I would like to translate, if you would.
Yeah, sure.
I would like to be reelected to my job in the Senate. And this fucking albatross ain't going to be hanging around my neck come election day.
Yeah, fuck that. Curran, I love this part. Curran also removed Anderson as minority spokesperson on the Senate Executive and Assignments Committees, though he remains a member on the Executive Committee. A silent member.
Yeah, he has to sit on a little table off in the corner. Now, finally, from the other end of our government,
in Illinois.
Wednesday, in Illinois, this is a local story. Our governor, J.B. Pritzker, ever heard of him? He's probably running for president.
You will.
Oh, you will. You'll wish you'll rue the day that you ever pissed off J.B. Pritzker. He delivered his annual State of the State message to a joint session of the Illinois State House and Senate. He did not single out Neil Anderson for special.
He could have.
Hey, Neil, stand up and wave to the people. Guess what Neil wants to do, people? Guess what party he's in? He did not do that because he's a better person than that. It was a very good speech, which you can watch on YouTube if you want to. We're going to excerpt a part of it in which there might be things of interest to those of you who live outside of Illinois. And by the way, this is a summary from Heather Cox Richardson, who has very helpfully put this together. Not for me personally, but she does this sort of thing, and I'm very grateful for it. Quote, Pritzker, this is about a third of the way through the speech, Pritzker then turned to the year that has passed since President Donald J. Trump took office. To be perfectly candid, Pritzker said, as Illinois is one of the states whose taxpayers send more dollars to the federal government than we receive back in services, I was hoping that his threats to gut programs that support working families were the kind of unrealistic hyperbole that fuels a presidential campaign, but is abandoned when cooler heads prevail. But he said, unfortunately, there are no cooler heads at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue these days. The Trump administration has cost Illinois $8.4 billion, Pritzker said, illegally confiscating money that has already been promised and appropriated by the Congress to the people of Illinois. Pritzker was clear that this money is not handouts, but dollars that real Illinoisans paid in federal taxes and that have been constitutionally approved by our elected Democratic and Republican representatives in Washington. Unlike the federal government, states must balance their budgets every year. Trump's billions in illegally withheld funds inflict a cost to the state's residents, which, while Illinois has been forced to spend enormous time and taxpayer money going to court and fighting to get what is rightfully ours. Pritzker said, it's impossible to tally the hours, days, and weeks our state government has spent chasing news of presidential executive orders, letters, and edicts that read like proclamations from the Lollipop Guild. Pritzker noted that Trump is making life harder for everyday Americans with tariffs that raise costs for working families and small businesses, trade wars that are devastating farmers, cuts to health care, nutritional assistance and education, increased bureaucratic demands on states, and low job creation. The good news, Pritzker said, is that Illinois has managed such crises before and found a way forward. He noted the growth of Illinois' economy and economic stability over the past 8 years, even as the state had balanced its budget every year and made historic investments in education, child welfare, disability services, and job creation in the private sector. In the past year, Illinois' gross domestic product was more than $1.2 trillion, up from the $881 billion when Pritzker took office, unquote.
Yep.
Boom. Mic drop.
Boom. That's very good. And I was just going to ask Google here about our rainy day fund, because there's a website that mentions the rainy. Actually, it's called Rainy Day Fund. You can go Google else, Illinois right? Rainy Day Fund. Yeah. And let's see what it says it is here. Anyway, it's Rainy Day Fund, and it's not coming up. In the meantime, while I'm waiting for that to come up, have you heard the story, Driftglass, about Mayor Wesley Dingus?
I hope that's not a made-up name, because it's a great name. It's
not a made-up name. That's his real name.
Wesley Dingus.
He's the mayor of Butler, Ohio.
Okay.
And there is a high school girl who suspected that someone was going through her things in her room. So she set up a camera and had it, like a Ring camera, it notified her via phone if someone was moving in front of the camera, and she put it in her bedroom, and the phone dinged, and her phone showed her that the mayor of her town was going through her bedroom and taking her underwear and smelling it. And the second day, she also received an alert. This time, the girl said the video showed Mayor Wesley Dingus entering her room, smelling her worn underwear, and touching his groin area over his clothes. The mayor's office did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I only have one question, Driftglass.
Uh-huh.
Guess which party?
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Was this part of a federal program, or?
I don't mean to laugh about this creep and pedophilia and how disgusting it is.
No, is this what cabinet post was he up for, do you suppose?
What cabinet post? Because he is going to go before the Senate Armed Services Committee for his job in the Pentagon, right?
Of course he is. Yeah, no, I have no doubt that he is a member of good standing of the Republican Party. I have many questions.
Absolutely.
I have many questions about how did he get in? How is he moving around? Does he have a key?
Yeah.
What's going on? But now is not the time for me to answer those, because we're doing this live.
Nope. We're doing this live, and I'm just saying, all I'm saying is, guess which party.
It never comes as a surprise when you find out it's a member of the GOP.
Yeah, well, and as one of my former colleagues at Crooks and Myers said, if it was a Democrat, they would have put it in the title of the article.
Exactly. So
they didn't, and so you know. And it looks like the Illinois Rainy Day Fund has over $69 million in it. Yeah, $69 million sitting in their Rainy Day Fund. So much of it from recreational cannabis sales.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, well, you know.
All right. We are going to close this with each week we post to our Patreon page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty is Swabby. Swabby is a creamsicle kitty, orange and white, and he loves the outdoors, especially on warm, sunny days like we've had this week here in South Central Illinois. Where, did we mention Neil Anderson has just been kicked out of Republican leadership?
What? Not Neil. Not Neil. Oh, man.
Anyway, it's a sunny day. And of course, Swabby eats freshly poured cat food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store direct, your cat will sit in the backyard in the sunshine and demand that the food they eat is only freshly poured. Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured. And you can visit Swabby, sitting in his yard, Lord of all he surveys, at our Patreon page, patreon.com/proleftpod, or our website, proleftpod.com. And you can send your internet kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service, go Postal Unions, letter on the air unless you say otherwise. Also, important note for your calendars, no podcast next Tuesday, since, I hate to tell you this, Driftglass will be busy watching and taking notes on the State of the Union address. That makes me barf in my mouth a little bit. He's prepping for being on both the broadcast and Bob Cesca. Actually, it'll be Bob Cesca first.
Right.
In case you didn't know. I'm still managing your calendar a little bit there, Driftglass. It'll be Bob Cesca and then the broadcast back to back to talk about the State of the Union address. I, on the other hand, will be knitting to trash television with a glass of wine in the other room because I will be home from work and tired.
And not interested at all. No,
well,
I'll
I'm
be doing
interested and I am interested, but I'm taking calls from people all day long, 60, 70 calls a day, and I come home tired from my cubicle job. I'm just tired. And
my strategy is I'm going to read I'm going to watch the entire State of the Union address. Then I'm going to go over and find Mark Halperin, who will tell me what I thought of it, and then I'm just going to repeat that with Bradcast and Bob, because that's the font of all Beltway wisdom. Yeah.
What? No Chuck Todd?
If he's available, he's who knows? He got a podcast called the Toddcast, I think.
Toddcast,
which has like at least 70 people listening to it.
And
Driftglass. Occasionally I dip over there.
That sparkle.
Well,
you need to add some sparkle, Driftglass.
Yeah. But I need to really get my blood pressure up to where it should be at all times. I'm a very tall guy. When I need that blood pumped to my head reliably, I hop on.
Go to the Toddcast.
Yeah. Oh, there we go. I'm feeling better now. Yeah, feeling wide awake and ready to piss fire. But this is a friendly reminder that we around here have a thing we call the Gourmet Coffee Guidelines. If you want to be able to treat yourself to an espresso-based beverage, go for it. But we also ask that you consider treating us to one as well. We need our coffee. There's no doubt about it. And this isn't charity. This is how we support the work that we do. And that you all appreciate, and we appreciate the fact that you appreciate what we do.
Yeah. If you don't just buy our coffee, you buy the power bill that powers our coffee pot. So
you bought a printer for us. We really appreciate that.
Yeah, honestly.
Yeah.
Our printer died. So we really appreciate your support.
We did. We went over to Best Buy with the confidence of people who have money in the bank enough to buy a printer.
Yeah,
so
because
good on
of
us.
you guys.
Because of you guys.
Yeah.
So if you can spare $5 a month or more, we'd really appreciate that. We'd be very grateful for your support at patreon.com/proleftpod, or just go over to Venmo if you prefer Venmo and look for The Professional Left. You'll find us there. Please also help us continue to grow if doing something for free, which is sharing the show on social media. If you love this podcast, introduce it to a friend. We think they'll get along. And thank you so much for helping us keep this going.
Hey, Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties have noticed that almost nothing melts a bullshit igloo faster than taking a whiz on it.
I love
Blue Gal. I love you too.
Let's think about living. Let's think about loving. Let's think about the hooping and the hopping and the bopping and the loving, lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with a switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is produced and recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright DGBG Productions. ProLeftPod.com.